You're good. We can hear you. Awesome. So yeah, my name is Blake Samaha. I graduated from LSU, Louisiana State University, with a degree in engineering, environmental engineering specifically. I haven't done anything with it really, but what it did help me do is learn how to mathematically model the real world. So that's a good start. Then I was a spreadsheet nerd. I worked as an analyst for real estate investment and other stuff like that. So I wanted to up my spreadsheet game and really learn how to code. So I did a data science immersive program at the Flatiron School, which was cool, awesome. So interest about me, really just sports and quantitative analysis, right? And then when you take sports, you take investment analysis, and then you take my competitive spirit, then you kind of put it all together, shake it up, and you get sports betting, right? So it's a natural draw for me. My occupation, I'm a technical business analyst by day and computer scientist at night. I like to work on multiple things. So obviously all my favorite teams are my hometown teams, New Orleans Saints, which we just won, moving on to the next round, which is awesome. New Orleans Pelicans, and of course LSU. I chose a picture on the left here with my then girlfriend, now fiance. That's like from 2016 or something like that, actually, but I'm just there flexing off my presidential suite pass. That was the only time I sat in a suite game. Not a huge fan, takes you out of the game, right? So anyways, moving on. So here on the agenda, let me get this little Zoom box out the way. I kind of want to talk to you about what happens when you're actually making a bet. And then at the end of it, I want you to have a good understanding of that. And then also understanding if your process, how are you grading your process? Is it correct? And things of that nature. So first of all, what makes a bet? What is a bet? It's usually a risk of some sort. So usually a sum of money against somebody else's sum of money on the outcome of a future event, such as the results of a race or say a football game. Very, very important. It's going to pop up multiple times in this. Sports betting is not solitaire. It is not chess. It may feel like it if you're logging on a website and just clicking a button. You're not interacting with any people. It's not a single player game. It's not even a two-player game. It's a multiplayer game, right? And compared to chess, you don't have complete information. In chess, you can see all the pieces on the board. You see exactly where your opponent moves. You have as much knowledge as that person across from you does. Now, sports betting, not that case, right? We don't know if somebody's actually injured and things of that nature, where somebody else might, close to the situation. So let's kind of look. A big theme of this is not looking at results of a bet, but really, looking at the process. And there's really no better example of that than a 2015 Super Bowl, New England versus Seattle. I believe there was like 26 seconds left. Seattle's on the goal line. They're down 4 points and have one timeout left. So with Marshawn Lynch, arguably one of the best goal line backs of all time, you're thinking Pete Carroll's just gonna, say, here, Marshawn, take the ball and run it in. What happens? They call a pass play and Russell Wilson throws an interception. Malcolm Butler becomes, Super Bowl hero. So Monday morning comes and Pete Carroll is just getting flamed on, by the national media, any sports personality. But, let's actually put ourselves in Pete Carroll's shoes and think about this for a second. Was this actually a bad call? So if you call a run play there, like everybody said he should have, playing Monday morning quarterback, and he gets stopped, clock's still running, you have to call a timeout, and then you really only have time to run another running play because you can't stop the clock after the next running play if he gets stopped. Where if you call a pass play, incomplete ball, stops the clock, and it gives you an opportunity to run two running plays after that pass play. And so this is kind of where the asymmetric payoff comes into account, right? So what's the trade-off here? The trade-off here is, yeah, you can run the ball and run the ball twice where you don't have the risk of an interception. But at the risk of throwing an interception at first play, your reward that you're really getting is an opportunity, third play to win the game. So that's really what you're looking to measure. Is the reward of what you're of your action greater than the risk you're taking? And so just the easy risk formula is your likelihood times scenario times severity. So if the likelihood of your bet is wrong times the amount of bet, and that's how much risk you have. So a little bit about sports betting. Sports books can be physical or digital. Obviously, these days pretty much everybody does digital. You can log onto a website and place bets there. Super easy. And they also have physical books, which are kind of what you picture casinos as, or horse betting tracks, right? You can actually go in there and you place bets with people. Now, the most important person at a sports book is the heads odds maker. Not all books have heads odds makers, but the heads odds makers, that guy with decades of experience, mathematical genius, uses all these models and stuff to set the lines. So he's that guy actually setting the lines. And of course, he's factoring in, what's the weather look like, home field advantage. They take into all kinds of accounts. And sports books usually set, all their lines, depending on the sport, comes out on a schedule. So just every sports book's kind of different. So let's just sake of simplicity say all lines are coming out on Tuesday for, this coming weekend's NFL games. So sportsbook opens up, let's say noon Tuesday, and that's the opening line. Now the line will move by the end of the week, and so the best way I can kind of describe what's happening is a Black Friday sale. So Tuesday is the best time to make bets because it is the opening, right? That is the biggest chance of error on the sports books. So you're in line for Black Friday sale. You saw that Best Buy ad for a TV for $150. It's last year's models. They're just trying to get it out. There's limited quantity. However, by the time you get in there, you see they're all taken off the shelf and they're rolling out the new models, which are, not a good deal because you're not getting that Black Friday sale. They're just kind of normal price. So all the good deals are going to get picked earlier in the week is really what I'm getting at. So if you're that guy, 1 hour before game time on Sunday, placing your bets, I'm not going to say you're going to lose, but you're definitely not giving yourself the best chance because the good bets have already been picked by the smart people. And so what's going on is, the line will come out Tuesday, and what sports books do is they limit their exposure by saying only people can bet, up to $1,000. And so what happens is somebody may bet $100, may bet $1,000, and then they'll, as bets start coming in, maybe all on one team, then they'll start moving their line. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get the same amount of money to be bet on both, let's say, the Saints and the Bears for this game. And so what happens if they get, money right on both sides, they have no risk. The book has no risk. So that's their goal, right? And we'll talk about that more in a second. So a little bit more about the types of bets you can make in the major markets here. NFL is the most bet market by volume of money. And typically you'll see the totals. So over under, you can see the New York Mets, Arizona Diamondbacks game here. The over under is 9, meaning if you bet the over and they score 10 points, congratulations, your bet hit. If you bet the under and they score 8 total points, both teams score 8 points together, 4-4 game, congratulations, your under hit. You can draw on this, obviously, if they score 9 points. Now you have the spread or the handicap. And this is the 1.5 and -1.5 spread line you see in New York Mets there. So what the negative means is that is a favorite. And if it's a positive, it means that is the underdog. So if you bet Arizona at -1.5, they have to win by 2 points. If they only win by 1 point, your bet doesn't win, you lose your money. And then you have money line, which is pretty straightforward. They're also called win bets. So if you bet the money line on Arizona, it means you're saying Arizona's going to win and your payout's going to be -167 odds, which we'll get to in a bit. You have future or outright bets, which basically says, for the 2021 season, I want to bet the New Orleans Saints to win the Super Bowl. Those bets are very risky, obviously, and they have a high payout because of all the different possible outcomes. You got prop bets, which is kind of like fantasy in a way. They have player prop bets where it would be, an example is Drew Brees is going to throw over or under 300 yards in his next game. So if you bet the over on that and he throws 305 yards, congratulations, you won your bet. So that's prop bet. And then you have parlay bets or accumulator bets, whatever you want to call it. And basically what this is just multiple bets strung under one bet. So you can say, I want the New York Mets money line and Milwaukee spread. So what you're doing is you're combining 2 of those bets into one. If one of those bets doesn't hit, then the whole bet is off, So because you're drastically increasing your risk, you also increase your reward possibilities there. So continuing on a little bit, beware the odds of March. If you're not a fan of puns, I'm sorry, we probably can't be friends. If you don't even recognize that's a pun, brush up on your Shakespeare. I don't know what to tell you here. So fractional odds is exactly what it seems. It's going to be presented to you as 10-15. And so to calculate your payout or your reward, it's your wager times the fraction, right? So $150 wager at 10 to 15 odds. If it wins, you'll get $100. Decimal odds, this is third grade math here. Converting fractions to decimals, decimals to fractions. Your wager times your decimal odds is going to give you what your payout is. So $150 bet, 0.67 decimal odds, which is the same as 10-15 fractional odds, you're getting $100 payout. So then of course you got American odds. We got to be different. The metric system is just too easy, right? So let's make things hard on ourselves and create our own American odds, just like we have our standard system. So these bets are based on, or odds are based on $100 bets. If you see the negative, once again, they're a favorite. If you see a plus, then it's a underdog. And so on negative 110 odds, that means you're wagering $110 to win $100. If you see a plus 150 odds, it means you're wagering $100 to win $150. And of course, I have a nice little picture here in case you ever want to, calculate these out yourself. So let's actually do some math here. So I grabbed these lines last night. I don't actually know what they closed at, so let's pretend these are the closing lines, for all sakes and purposes. So implied probability or break-even percentage. Break-even percentage probably will make more sense to people just because it's an easier digestible term. Really what this is saying is based on the odds that I'm giving, what is the likelihood of this outcome? So if I were to give somebody, if I were to bet Avi on the odds of a coin flip, it would be plus 100 heads, plus 100 tails, which comes out to be a 50% break-even percentage, right? So if you, for chance, find somebody who wants to bet you plus 110 odds, on that means they're saying plus 110 odds on heads and plus 100 on tails. Basically, they're saying, or hammer that heads bet because you're going to win that bet 52 times out of 100 because you have a 2% advantage there. And so kind of to convert that, you'll take your decimal odds, always just go to decimal odds, make it easier for you to understand. And then you're going to take the inverse of that. So meaning you're going to divide your decimal odds. And you can see here, the Saints line that I saw last night, which considering the closing line here, is 1 over 1.2 or 83.3%. So that's saying the odds, the odds given by the sports book plus everybody betting, right? Because it's not just a sports book. The wisdom of the crowd basically arrived at the Saints winning, 83.3 times out of 100 times if this game was played 100 times. And for the Bears, they're saying the Bears have 19.6% chance of winning this game. And you can see the odds payout here. Obviously, the Saints, if you wager $100, you're only going to win $20. Whereas the Bears, if you pay $100, you're going to win $510. So the risk is usually somewhat proportional to the reward here. But I just wanted to, take a second, look at this and see if you notice anything weird. Right. So going on to the next one here, total implied probability. The weird part was those two probabilities that we calculated, they added up to 102.9%, right? So that doesn't make any sense. You can't have 102.9% of an outcome. It's only 100%. So what that extra 2.9% is, that's the house's money, so that's called the hold, the vig, the juice, whatever. There's a million different names for it. And so when I was saying earlier, when they're setting the lines, they're trying to get the same amount of money on both sides. If it's equal, then the house is just going to collect 2.9% on all dollars bet. So $1 million a bet, what's that? I'm not going to do math, but anyways, they're going to win 2.9% or just have 2.9% of that and have no risk at all. So that's always the goal of the sports book, and that's why the lines move. So what this also means is the odds we calculated aren't the true odds of the Saints winning or the Bears winning based on those percentages. So what you do is you take your total probability, you take your implied probability for that team, and you divide it by a total probability, and that gives you your true odds. So This whole percentage is going to vary by wager type. Usually the rule of thumb is the more possible outcomes, the higher the hold is going to be. So meaning if you did a futures bet, obviously you bet the Saints to win the Super Bowl, there's 32 or 31 different other outcomes. So the hold is going to be pretty high on that. So a higher hold also means, more money per bet for the sports book, but less bettors. And these days, with everybody being able to access, all kinds of sports betting websites through the internet, competition's really driving the hold down. If you're seeing holds, for simple bets, like game bets like this, over 5%, find a new book. This is also why people use multiple books to kind of compare to each other, because you might get better bets on one book compared to the other. So going on, the importance of the hold percentage here. If you bet a spread, which most books offer -110 on the spread, meaning they're taking about 2-ish% on everything. If you bet $100 on every game flat for 135 games, which is a 55% win rate, it gives you a record of 75 and 60, which is really good, actually. And you can see, no hold, you're making $1,500. The average book hold, you're making $825. So you can see it really starts eating into your profit margin there. So also, I put together a little Google Sheet calculator to kind of put all this together for you in case you don't want to do the math and stuff. We'll probably integrate this into the website at some point, just for a nice little odds calculator to save you time in the future. But here's one of my favorite quotes. There are only two things that determine how your life turns out: luck and the quality of your decisions. So now that we're kind of able to look at a decision, how do we judge if we made a good decision or not? So once again, using the Saints and Bears here, remember, it's a multiplayer game, right? You're going against the wisdom of the crowd and the sports book. You're not going against just a computer like solitaire or anything like that, or chess or an opponent, right? So the opening odds, the line open at 450 and they close at 500. So this is why I'm saying it's important to get in early, because if you bet the Saints early, your opening break even was 81, so you have to win 81.82% of the time. Whereas if you bet, right before the game closed, you have to win 83.33% of the time. So that 1.5% difference, you can think of that as a 1.5% discount to the house fees, and that's really beneficial for you. So to analyze your bets, to understand if they're really good bets. Now, for most weekend warriors, your model is probably just your gut, right? Whatever you see. So whatever your gut tells you, if, at the end of the season, you're going to calculate your closing line value or keep track of it the whole time during the season. So basically your closing break-even percentage minus your opening break-even percentage. And your goal is to have that be half of your, average season hold. And if that holds true, right? So if you have a 1.5% closing line value and your hold that you bet into the entire year was 3%, you probably did pretty good. You can pat yourself on the back, regardless of the outcome. We don't care if you lost the bet, right? I mean, the Falcons multiple times had 99.9% chance of winning and they blew it, right? Does that mean that they made bad decisions the entire game? No, but it's the Falcons. That's what they do. But what we're trying to do is focus on the decision-making process and not the results, because we're always extrapolating this information to infinitum. And so it's a little bit more about me, some fun facts here. Like my favorite bet was I came in, I don't know, maybe from dinner or something, and I turned on game 6 of the NBA Finals, about halftime, and the Heat were getting crushed, right, by the Lakers. And I was just watching, and I pulled up the betting lines, and I can just see, it's like, man, plus 28 for the Heat. That's, my little models were going off and saying that there's very, very, very few elimination games with that kind of margin. So I'm going to hit this bet. Boom, I hit plus 28 and actually went down to plus 30. I hit that, I bet that again. Guess what? They ended up losing by like 16 points, right? So both those bets hit. I love that bet because I don't know if anybody really reads Benjamin Graham's Intelligent Investor. He has this figure called Mr. Market, and basically what that is the emotions of the market, right? If the Heat are getting beaten really bad, everybody's going to say, oh man, this game's just done, it's over. But at the end, when you look back, at it, the score is really not that bad. And so it goes into value investing, things of that nature. Just it's a contrarian play is what I did. So if everybody's fearful, you want to be greedy. If everybody's greedy, you want to be fearful. It just happened to work out very well for that one because, like I said, elimination games, you're not going to have a 30-point differential very often. It is possible. So my worst bet, I broke every rule on this one. Hour before the game, I bet my favorite team, right? So I had all the biases going into this, and LSU was playing Missouri. They were 14-point favorites, right? Yeah, we suck this year. Okay, but we just came off a decent win. We had like 8 sacks this last game. We're playing a true freshman quarterback. I just kept justifying everything in my head. And I was like, man, all right, this is going to be good. So I bet the plus 14. Obviously, come halftime, I think we're losing or winning by. No, we were losing, and I broke rule number 2. I doubled down on bad bet. Basically, at halftime, it was a pick'em game, and once again, I had faith in my LSU Tigers because I'm a fan. I'm fanatical. So I had faith in my LSU Tigers to win by 1 point. And guess what? We lost the freaking game. So not only did I make a bad bet, I go against every rule. I doubled down on my bad bet. So stick to your rules. Also my mantra is all models are wrong, but some models are useful. Be very pessimistic. When it comes to sports betting, it's like the old school home run derbies. They just keep throwing you pitches. Swing at the ones that are perfectly in your wheelhouse. Knock them out the park because you can just keep taking pitches all day, right? And if you keep taking pitches or skipping bets, in this case, you're not going to lose money. And that's the important thing. The important thing is to stay in the game as long as possible. That gives you the best chance of winning money. Just like we said, an extra play to win a game, to me, is extremely valuable. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to questions. You can follow me at Twitter, Mean Aggression, another pun. And there's my LinkedIn. So yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I'll kick it off actually. Thank you so much for this presentation. This last year I kind of started dabbling, but I really have no idea what I'm doing. And so I did pretty well against actually putting any bets against the teams that I love because I was superstitious of that one. I was like, no, I don't want to put in anything towards this. I do have one question, and this is super basic, but literally I had to wait for whatever the betting software told me the payout was going to be. Mm-hmm. But my question is, so if you put $100 in and your payout is 110 or whatever, do you also get your $100 back, or you really only made $10?
You really only made $10. So if it's plus 110, that means you're betting $100. So whenever you're saying you're betting, you have no more control of that money, right? So it's gone, it's out in the world, and they're going to pay you back $110.
And so are there times when it's negative then, where you put in $100 and you get $80 back, or is that never happen?
Yeah, exactly. So go back. Right. So talking about the Saints, converting the decimal odds to minus 500, you're making $20 on a $100 bet there. Right.
Right.
So is that kind of what you meant by negative?
No, I'm just wondering, because isn't there a point where you can put $100 in and literally only get paid back $80? Bets are it is so skewed that you end up having to put in a certain amount in order for it to exceed the amount you put in.
You'll never lose, I'll call it the principal.
Okay, good.
Right? Because first of all, why would anybody ever make that bet?
Right.
If it's a guaranteed loss, why am I making that bet? So you're only going to win less. Right?
Okay. Good. That was my, personally, I was worried about that. So
yeah, no, you're never going to guarantee yourself a loss unless one time I was gambling in Biloxi at the roulette table and this person put money on black and red. Well, guess what? What happens if it lands on zero? You lose. You lose both bets. You can't win any money. So yeah, you can't come into that situation. Well, I'm sure you can in some complicated ways, but if you start hedging and things of that nature. But as just talking simplistically, if you make one bet on a minus 500, you're not going to lose your principal.
Okay.
You'll just profit very little.
Right. Awesome. Thank you.
Blake, great presentation. I started getting in a little bit just from like visiting Vegas and stuff like that. And now Bovada is kind of open to everybody as well. But I'm unfamiliar with other things such as like DraftKings, things like that. Can you just briefly speak about how that works and like give us like a 2-minute synopsis? I know we're short on time, but I'm just kind of unfamiliar with those platforms as well and how those kind of betting markets work.
Sure. So daily fantasy sports is basically what DraftKings is known for. They do have a sports book, which is open to bet on in any state that it's actually legal to bet. But daily fantasy sports specifically, they have, different game types. And really what it is most of the world, I'm sure anybody watching this video has played fantasy sports, or I'm assuming they have. And like I said, the prop bet earlier, is Drew Brees going to throw under or over 300 yards? It's kind of similar to that because you get points for every kind of statistical category. One of the typical standard scoring is for every 20, 25 passing yards a QB has, you get 1 point. So it just accumulates like that. And what you're doing is you're playing against the world, typically, or anybody who's welcome in that lobby, in that room. And so like their Millionaire Maker, you have 167,000 people. Basically what you'll do is try to put together, based on their scoring system, you'll look at, make sure, how many points you get for a passing yard. Some give bonuses for people who've thrown over 300 yards, how many running back catches, person's going to have, how many yards is the running back going to have. Any statistical category that you can gain points for, you want to keep note of that. And then you want to create a lineup, which they give you a salary cap, and you have to draft a full lineup that fits under that salary cap that you think is going to score the most based on the scoring rules that they provided you. And, it's, if you play in a huge lobby, like the Millionaire lobby, there's a very small chance you're going to win. I will actually just kind of kick this off and just say, I'll maybe do a presentation on this later, but if you're really interested in the subject, there's a book called Dueling Kings, or Dueling with Kings. It's a great book, and it really gets in depth about how the industry started up and how, it functions. But yeah, also you can play one-on-one there too, right? So if it's legal in your area, it's still not legal in all states, but here in Texas it is. So if I wanted to challenge you, Avi, to a one-on-one, I can challenge you, and we both set lineups up, and obviously they take a small cut, but we can play against each other for money. And really, instead of season long, which typical fantasy is, it's only a 1-day slate. So that's the main difference, and kind of why it's getting away with not being called gambling.
Gotcha. Thanks, Blake.
Yeah, no problem. Sweet. So I guess
All right. Thank you again, Blake, for this great presentation, and everyone for attending. Next week, we are going to be covering trading cards and kind of getting into that new and developing industry. Actually, it's obviously been around for a while, but why it's having a recent resurgence. And we're actually gonna have our first pretty much guest host of that, someone who I actually know paid for all of his college by flipping Jordans. So pretty reliable source because he paid for an entire college education off of it. Feel free to join us for that. You can find it on our Eventbrite page. Otherwise, when you sign up for this, we'll send you out a newsletter as well of upcoming conversations. So thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.